to Bloody Good Horror, covering the best and worst of the horror genre since Halloween 2007. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another incredible episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric, and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be discussing Kong, Skull Island, and Joe will be scatting his review. First up on the show, he's the editor. No, you're not editor-in-chief anymore, right, Mark? Did we change that?
Wait.
Oh, you're the editor-in-chief. We have a new daily managing editor, right?
We sure do, yeah.
So you're the editor-in-chief. You were also the web developer, mixmaster Bundy himself, Mark.
Hello.
Next up on the show, he drinks beer. He lives in Chicago. He derails the show. His name is Joe.
Greetings and felicitations, children of the night.
Nice. I guarantee you.
He says.
I guarantee you that's a legit intro to like some horror podcast out there.
It is now.
Next up on the show, coming to you from
Thank you,
Indiana, co-host of the Instamatic. His name is Casey.
Hello.
And last up tonight, fancy-ass business manager at bloodygoodhorror.com, sipping some wine and judging your life decisions. His name is John Schnars.
Hello. I couldn't. I just couldn't. I'm gonna sip some more wine.
Yeah.
Is that
He
is that
does.
a fruit of a loom
Wait,
undershirt, John?
Wait,
or what do you got going on?
wait, everybody stop. He has wine. I was just joking. He's drinking,
Eric.
and of all things, he's drinking white wine, which is not the people's wine, John. You know that, right?
Well, you
I
also
actually
know, Eric,
don't know. what the people's
Thunderbird
wine
is the people's wine.
You can't drink red wine because it'll stain his white tea.
That's true.
That's true. I wouldn't risk defiling.
He
this
only
fine.
has the crew neck, the one crew neck, and the one V-neck, so he can't
Is that a-
ruin one of them because
Like-
is that a Yeezy original?
Yeah.
it goes down to his ankles. You just can't see on the camera.
Oh boy.
I like to be comfortable when I'm podcasting, and I like to have a delicious.
John, I think you look great in a white t-shirt dress.
I like to have a delipit white wine too.
We're here tonight to talk about Kong Skull Island, a light little affair about pulling out of the Vietnam War.
Tell that to the guy that got ripped apart by the mosquito bird. That
Yeah.
wasn't light at all.
It's fucking ants.
Oh, that guy.
Fucking hell.
Did we mention that this is episode 420? I feel like that's
Ah,
No, we were just gonna skip over that.
dude.
I don't get it, Joe.
You know,
Uh,
I heard they
It's from
grew.
the Kong.
I heard they grew things in Vietnam. It's a good environment for it. You know.
Oh, fuck yeah.
That's how they controlled your brain, man.
I was in the shit.
I thought there was so much weed on Skull Island.
Yeah.
the set of I would believe that too.
I mean,
Joe's
instead
like-
of, but I'm just treating Skull Island as if it's a real place.
Joe's
and I thought
like-
there's tons of weed there.
Joe's like, I've been in the shit. One time they ran out of free coffee at my office. Okay.
No, they never did that.
One time
That
the
would be
wi
right.
one time the Wi-Fi wasn't working. And I had to plug directly into the internet.
Oh.
It was bullshit.
It's weird, right? Like when your internet goes down to the office now, like just everything goes to a halt.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
You're like,
yeah.
well, guess
Everyone
I'll
just
just put my
turns
feet up.
around in their chairs and stares at each other.
Like,
They
oh,
don't know
what
what
do
to
we
do with
do?
themselves.
What a-
That's why I brought in a puzzle.
Breaking news. I watched WrestleMania.
Oh man, Eric, you're
Sure
fully
did.
back.
Who would like a 90-minute Eric Show review now? I basically gave it to Mark the next day over GChat. He can attest to that.
Well,
Mark
he was
like,
using
"Listen,
my
I watched it too. Please leave me alone.
the best. The best part was the exchange where he asked me if I was going to be watching it so he could use my WWE Network account,
Yeah.
and I told him that if he did, he has to call me Dad now.
because he was doing yard work while I was watching WrestleMania.
I mean, you can't do more than one at a time? Like, isn't that the thing now? Where,
I
like,
don't
you
know
can
if
just trade
it's
content?
super strict, but there's probably a
Yeah.
limit, I would guess. I
I
bet
don't
you.
want my vagabond son fucking up my
bet you-
subscription.
I bet you can get away with 2 people. You know, but anyway. So
I mean, if you're watching on different devices, I would think so. Like, how would
Yeah,
you possibly
right.
know?
So I don't watch wrestling. I had no context for any of this. I will say the number one thing: it's too goddamn long. It was 5 effing hours.
What?
You didn't even. Well,
It was
you
over
watched
5
the
hours.
4-hour main show. There was a 2-hour
No.
pre-show before the 4-hour main show.
No.
Dear
The main show,
God.
Mark, was 5 hours and 12 minutes. It started at 7 and it ended at like 12:15.
Oh, well,
What?
there was 2 hours before you even started watching.
Yeah.
So that was a total.
So I watched. the
I'm not
last
even gonna math it, but it
the
was a lot of
last
hours.
match I watched the Triple H match and then went to bed because I'm like, bro, it's 10:30. I'm already gonna be useless tomorrow. So then I
What
got
was
up.
the like the main event? What was the big?
There were like 3 main events. Like
Well, didn't Undertaker wrestle?
so,
what's
first
his name?
up,
the other old guy?
Brock Lesnar fought Goldberg or Oldberg.
Mhm.
Am I right, Mark?
Yeah.
How
that
long
'cause
did the
he's
match?
old.
How
I
long
get
did
it.
the match last? Because Mark said that Goldberg couldn't wrestle for more than like a
There's a-
minute.
It
was
lasted
about
like
3
6
minutes.
minutes. Yeah, like it wasn't
Yeah.
very long, and it was all just them doing the moves. They each have like 3 slammy moves, and like they did those like on repeat, just over
You
and
just
over to each
described
other.
wresling pretty well.
Yeah.
Slammy moves.
You
Who
got these
won?
slammy moves.
I don't know, Mark. Is it uncouth to give spoilers this soon?
If you are the very specific person who is a wrestling fan
But has not watched
has not
WrestleMania yet.
and WrestleMania spoiled for you yet, spoiler alert.
Who is like holding out like a week after? Like,
I
Right.
don't know.
Brock Lesnar won.
Brock Lesnar won. Yeah.
Alright.
Um.
I mean, isn't that like not wanting to know who won the Super Bowl like a week after still? Like,
Yeah.
I've got a DVR,
Yes.
guys.
So, but you know the
Well,
cool.
especially because there are TV shows that reference the previous night's happenings the
True.
day
Yeah,
after,
that's true.
so it's already spoiled.
It was cool because like we have a handful of fans, probably more than a handful, but there's a handful that talk to us and me specifically on Twitter a lot. They're like still super huge wrestling fans, and they were all just like totally delighted by the fact that I was watching it. And so they were like, we were talking back and forth on Twitter during it. I gotta say, like, it was actually a lot of fun. It's way too long. Like 5 hours, 5 hours is too long for not even entertainment. Like literally anything in life, 5 hours is too long.
Well, and if
Seriously.
you watch,
I don't know.
if you
It's
the
like-
TV shows collectively during the week are 5 hours. If you watch the 2 main shows on cable, so you would have watched a total
Well,
of
right.
like
So
12 hours of WWE. in
the only
like a
thing I
week.
could think is
It's
like they
insane.
figure they must figure they have to outdo Raw, which is like 3 hours still. Right,
Jesus.
so, like-
this is too much of a commitment.
Dude, so like yeah, so anyway, I
It really is. I just read what happens online and then watch stuff after it happens.
I really enjoyed
Oh
it.
yeah,
It was
you
a
read
lot,
about it online. That makes it.
it was a
better.
lot of fun. It was in Orlando. It was in Orlando. In, like,
I don't
an
watch it all. I
outdoor-
just check the blogs after. I just try
It was like in an outdoor arena, which was super hella
Reddit, Joe. I
sweet.
check Reddit. Okay.
But 5 hours too long. But it was like a lot of fun. But I'm not like compelled to start watching week to week because the people that watch week to week are all super miserable and like self-loathing about it. I feel like so I'm not getting into.
I mean, it's
that.
just a lot of TV. It's like
Well, and then you
It's just
also
a
get
lot.
you get so invested in it that you get really upset. It seems like when things don't happen the way you think they should. Like I started reading comments on an article yesterday. I'm like, nope, this right here is what I don't want to do.
that's kind of why I backed off.
We're too far.
So what
Kind
I
of backed off from the whole thing because it's very.
so what I really
Kinda.
liked it as an event though. Like the production of that thing is just bananas. Like there was like a mile-long entrance ramp to the ring, and it was all a giant screen. Like it was all an LCD screen or some shit. I don't know how they do it.
I feel
Um,
like if I could watch everything except for the actual wrestling, like I might be into checking this
So
out.
I think that like going forward, I'll probably at least watch this every year if I have access to it. If Mark keeps paying for it, you know, like that might be enough for me.
I'm gonna
Maybe
start
you could
charging
like throw
rent.
Mark like a couple of dollars for this. I don't know. It's just like a suggestion I would make.
Listen, Mark was already paying for it and not watching it anyway, so I'm just getting his money's worth for him.
You
It's a
take
valid
an
point.
edible arrangement. I'd accept an edible arrangement.
Oh.
Yeah.
It should be. That's
That's fair.
acceptable.
You think you don't want one, but you do.
But it's fun. Also, Triple H is now like a giant roided out warlock monster that's very violent, and he has like a weird old man beard. It was very jarring because I'm also watching stuff from '97 right now when he weighs like 150 pounds and has long hair and looks like a
That's
huge...
a lot. That's a well-known side effect of steroids. If you take them for over 15 years, you turn into a warlock. That's just what happens.
Eventually,
He's terrifying.
like that girl from Twilight, you become a warlock.
Oh my god! Can we talk about Hermione Gate? Can we embarrass Joe a little further?
I would love to.
I'm
Go ahead.
not embarrassed at all.
Go ahead, Mark.
So this past Friday, I'll go through this quick. It's just funny. Joe tweeted out our review of Personal Shopper, which stars Kristen Stewart, but he tweeted it out with a Hermione joke, very clearly mistaking her for Emma Watson.
And they don't look anything alike.
And a
They look
lot of people
pretty much like
were
identical
like they're
twins.
white chicks with brown
Very
hair,
funny.
but they don't look alike.
The best part about Joe, the way that Joe posts stuff, is that I legitimately couldn't tell if he didn't know or if it was just some
Right.
next level joke
It
about how
could-
they look alike.
Yeah, it could totally be just a genius Joe joke.
It's all just fucking, it's all just such nonsense that it becomes acceptable at a point, and I
We'll
think
never
it's
know,
kind of
will
taken
we?
on a life of its
We'll
own. Yeah,
never
right. That's what I asked Joe about, and he's like, "We'll never know." It's like,
What?
well, you know.
But watching people in the comments be super confused was like kind of amazing.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
They
We're
have
just
every
trying
right
to make
be
sure they were
confused.
paying attention,
Yeah.
and it worked.
You know.
It's so hilarious that like anyone, myself included, is like, well, clearly Hermione Granger was a different actress.
Whatever.
Here's the thing: I've never seen any of those movies, and I knew that was not her.
Well, I'm still not sure it isn't.
She's in the circle that's coming up too. I mean, you
Oh,
know,
That
she's-
movie, I no patience for that nonsense.
Any chance
Yeah.
they change the name to Circle before it gets released?
There's
Early
like-
Mario, late Sonic.
There are,
Unfulfilled potential.
I think there's parts of that trailer
I
that
don't
are
even
like,
know what Joe's talking
no, he's referencing the trailer. I've seen enough times to know what he's talking
That,
about.
like,
I
little
thought he was just
interview
like
clip?
saying shit out loud.
No, he's
What's your
referencing.
greatest fear? Unfulfilled potential. Hire me.
Uh,
Shut
That
your
was the
stupid
most
millennial
spot-on
face.
Emma Watson impression I've
That
ever
was-
heard.
Oh my god. Yeah.
I don't know where to
good
go from
times.
there. I did want to talk about something else. We've been hitting up trailers lately, but we keep like forgetting to talk about. For the first time in the theater, I saw the new extended trailer for War for the Planet of the Apes, like with
Oh, yeah.
all the
I got
plot
it too.
and like crazy, like white supremacist Woody Harrelson shaving his head while shirtless while he's like psyching the troops up. Which just led me to start thinking like, and I'm curious what you guys think of this trailer. I think we probably all agree it looks pretty awesome, but I keep thinking about this movie franchise, and it's like it's kind of amazing. Like it sort of retained the certain B movie aspects from the originals, but also it's like it turned out to be such a heady thing. Like that first film
Yeah, I
was
mean-
really emotional, and then the second film too. Like they're covering such fertile ground about like life and humanity and the way we treat animals and all this shit. And it's like this really deep shit, but also it's a movie about fucking apes killing you with guns.
Yeah, I mean, the originals were all really heady. Like, if anything, their biggest downfall is that
But
they
they
like,
were
tried
just
to be
so
too heady.
they were also just so 70s cheesy too, though, that when you go back,
Yeah.
it's like a little hard to take them seriously.
I mean, it was like a limitation.
They were
at the time.
humans in ape costumes,
suits,
not
yeah.
CGI. So
Not Andy Serkis in a human ape suit.
yeah,
Prove it.
exactly.
Just like
Yeah, I
there's
think it
just
looks
like
great.
I think that
Yeah, looks like
the
for it.
fact that this trilogy of films made it through and like through Hollywood and like kind of did what it did is like such an incredible story that I feel like it's not talked about enough. Every day we should just be talking about the Planet of the Apes series.
No, but like honestly, it's a really interesting conversation that we can have. I think in the context of Kong too, because in a lot of ways, like that movie set the template for what allows something like Kong to now exist. Because it essentially is like teeing up new world creation based on an old IP, but they're doing it with like really good talent.
In a
They're like putting in all the
creative-
like hard work.
and not just retelling, but like doing it in a new creative way.
Yeah, well, and like getting good directors like to come in and good writers to come in and like create a. I mean, remember how much of that first film was just what's his name, fucking James Franco?
With that cute
And,
ass
like,
monkey
too much.
teaching him
Yeah.
shit.
Oh, stop it, James Franco is
No.
a treasure.
Oh,
Joe-
no, absolutely not.
Joe
I will
says
not.
as he's-
Oh, come on,
No, he's pretty
He
good.
I
is a
can't.
garbage person.
you're not gonna get into this.
I mean, the
right
other
now.
fascinating thing that we can move on, but like the other fascinating thing to me about this series is like you should just, I think, on a base level, relate to the humans in the film, right? Like not all of them because a lot of them are bad people, but like humanity, right? You should feel some type of threat for humanity, but at the same time, like really those apes are kind of the protagonists. You know what I mean? But it's
No,
just
no,
like
they're definitely the
well,
protagonists.
yeah, but you would think that biologically we would just look at this and be really horrified and have some level of like oh shit, like you can't make humanity go away, right? But like, I think that there are nuances within that. Like some of the humans are good in the previous film. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
what I'm
yes and
saying is I
no.
think they handle that balance in a really fascinating way.
Yeah, I mean that's like what makes those movies like heady and interesting, right? Is that they're like pull off exactly what you're talking about. I didn't see this, but apparently, I mean, we probably talked about it when we did Dawn, the second one, but it's the same director. So Matt
Oh,
Reeves,
nice,
he
cool.
did the second one, and you know he's Matt Reeves of Cloverfield fame and
And
Let the Right One
Christopher's son.
In. Is he Christopher's son?
Joe just said
No.
that. That was
No.
I
just
mean, like it's not crazy that he would be.
that was
but,
just that was just a thing that Joe said. You can move on.
yeah, but yeah, it's weird though that they like replaced the original. Like the first film's director is not Matt Reeves.
Yeah.
So
Well, the second film was a really different beast too. I think in a lot of ways.
yeah,
Do you remember the scene in the second one where the army of apes was riding on horses in slow motion and firing machine guns? I mean,
isn't that in the trailer for
it's
the third one too?
the greatest thing that I've ever seen. Legit.
I'm just so pumped that they have Woody Harrelson as like the evil fucking
Yeah.
human.
He looks awesome. I'm
He
psyched
is
for that.
perfect for those kinds of
And
roles.
it's, I mean, and the kind of neat thing about all of it is that it doesn't tread on the canon of the original films. Like,
No.
it really fits.
No,
it
he's the
fits really neatly into that like whole story, which is really cool.
Oh yeah.
So I just wanted to, it just got me jazzed up seeing it because I think I'd only seen it like embedded on Facebook or something, so I was pretty psyched.
This
to see it in the theater.
Justin, Bloody Good Horror, loves monkeys made on computers.
Computer monkeys.
Yeah.
It's true.
And how?
If you want to get back episodes of the show, patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror. Don't forget to visit the site and check out Cece's book club also. There's a tab there.
You could listen to our episode on what's not
Both-
Rise.
both
What's
movies.
the second one?
Dawn.
Second one's Dawn.
We did both of
Dawn.
them for the show.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Rise and Dawn.
Planet of the Apes, I believe.
Yeah.
I prefer Beneath the Planet of the Apes if I have to go original 5.
Apes, What It Isn't Good For, I think is the fourth one. Should be my favorite.
Beneath is the first sequel, the one where the people,
Yeah.
the mutated people. That one's pretty wild. I love
I think it's the second one.
You know what I love more than watching the movies is, I mean, like 15 years ago, I remember AMC did like 10-part special on all of the movies, and in an hour they run you through the whole plot, but they also do all the behind the scenes. So it's like you watch the movie, but without having to sit through the entire movie.
I would
And-
watch that.
And they were really good, and like lots of hilarious shots of like 70s British dudes smoking cigarettes in their ape suits and stuff. You know. I mean, there's interesting
Yeah.
things going on in all of those. Even as the sequels got jankier, like it's just a crazy series. So
I when I worked at the video store, that was because they were already PG, and there's like some violence, but it's like fairly tame, especially by like modern standards.
Mostly monkey violence.
Yeah, we would run through those on like a Saturday. If I got in at like noon, we would just like pound through all 5 of the movies. You know,
That's
and then it's
awesome.
like 8 o'clock, and you're ready to go.
that's 8 o'clock, and it's time to leave and get hammered.
It's time to turn on R-rated movies. No, well,
Yeah.
because the place was open till 11, so.
Smoke
Come 8 o'clock, that's when the porn goes on.
Smoke some weed.
Yep. So,
I can't picture you as a clerk, Schnars. I'm being honest.
I was terrific.
Did you wear
Oh,
white gloves?
fabulous.
Because so you wouldn't have to touch like things that commoners that touch.
Oh, did your video store have a back room?
Yeah, we had a
Nice.
porn room.
Uh,
I definitely talked about the porn room.
swinging saloon
John
gates,
just cuts
or
right through it. He's not calling that
was
the
it
back room.
was it plastic beads or swinging saloon gates?
Saloon gates.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
that's the best.
I think
And
that's your
and then
standard.
a curtain. Then there was like a curtain. After this, at one point the saloon gates broke, and the boss was just like, "We're not fixing
Ah,
these."
so you double
And then
bag, you double bag the porn room.
And then a bucket.
I mean, serious question. Where does one even find saloon gates pre-internet? Like, how do you just go about? You gotta like drive to Texas or some shit. Like, I don't
I
know.
think you just like call like a door guy. You're like, "Hey, you got a door guy," and the door guy's like,
Hey,
"Yeah."
you got those video store porn gates? You got some of those?
They
You
know
got some
exactly what
leftover?
you're calling from the video store. We know what you need. We
Yeah,
Do you
got
think
you,
people
uh,
that own saloons call them porn doors? Like, we gotta put in these porn doors here in the front.
It's like if you're like 5'7", you can see over them, and if you're a kid, you can see under them. Is that you got those? You got those doors?
See, what you need is the classic Porn Door 4000. Where let me check out our selection here.
Oh Christ, we've
I've-
really outdone ourselves.
I
In,
feel like
in-
with all my nasal stuff going on, I've got some real new voice potential tonight.
I like
so,
the way that you say Kong with the stuffy nose.
Kong.
Kong,
You know, it's like a
Oh.
toy. You put peanut
Trains
butter
there.
in it, and the dog licks it.
Kong, Skull Island.
Skull Island.
yeah.
Joe.
25 just arrived.
Joe. Speaking of Schnars getting hammered after working at the video store every night,
Right.
what are we drinking tonight?
Oh boy, we're drinking a beer. I don't need to tell you anything about the movie to give you the rundown on this beer. I picked a brew from the fine folks at Shipyard Brewing up in Portsmouth. Oh wait, no, Portland, Maine.
I'm the secret square.
I knew that was gonna run onto the rocks at some point.
Up in Portland, Maine, and this is their Monkey Fist IPA.
Love it. Awesome.
Yeah, Monkey Fist. It's a good one. It's been around for a while, since like 2012. I think they put this one out. Shipyard does a handful of IPAs. I want to say this one is probably their most like straightforward, drinkable IPA, if that was a term we were going to use. Obviously a lot of hops in this, but like very well balanced, and especially this one comes in at like 6.9% alcohol, so like almost 7%. So it's got a little bit of a kick to it, but like the hops, I feel like do a good job of bearing what would be like maybe a little bit of an alcohol flavor to it. And they're not like super aggressive, which is interesting. Like I think IPA, some people get turned off by them because like the hops are like so upfront and they kind of punch you in the face. But this one I think does a really good balance and then kind of just flushes away like immediately after you drink it. So it's definitely like a very drinkable beer. Definitely, I would call it like a really good sort of intro IPA if you're trying to, show someone different styles of beer. That being said, it still does sort of have that hop bite to it. So I don't want to like downplay the fact that it is still an IPA, but it's really, really good. Everything Shipyard puts out is good, especially like, around Halloween, they have their pumpkin smash, which is super good. And a lot of their seasonals I really like. So, if you can find it, definitely pick it up. Shipyard.com is their website. And yeah, I think that'll cover it.
Love it. Yeah, I'm into Shipyard. It's pretty good. Actually, it's funny. I was like looking at the bar at the movie theater I go to, which is just like an AMC, but they have a bar. It's called MacGuffins. You guys get it?
Oh yeah.
They have like a really good
We
beer
too have a
selection.
MacGuffins attached.
Yeah, I
to
think
our
every
AMC.
AMC has a MacGuffin.
Like they have a really good beer selection. I was like shocked. Some like good craft stuff. So
Ours is decent. I feel like they never clean their lines though,
Oh,
so
probably,
their
yeah.
beers always taste like they've been run through a dirty sock, which is a
But
bummer.
You guys
Still-
don't get the like really expensive, super sugary drinks that they make based on the movies that are coming out.
yeah, that sucks.
What? No. What is this?
They make like cocktails for movies that are coming out.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
that-
it's like
that's-
pure sugar.
They just rename like other cocktails.
Yeah,
for
it's like
things
either
other
it's
than
blue
this.
drink or green drink or pink drink or
Yeah.
whatever.
I
And it has
love
like well vodka in it.
Yeah, I love blue
like,
drink.
like a
It's the best.
thimble. So, yeah.
You remember when you get like teeny
Cool.
juices when you were a kid? Those little like barrel juice things.
Oh, those are the best.
Blue. It's my joint. All right,
Yep.
Joe.
Hey,
Thank you.
thank you.
It
Thanks
is
for having
time.
me, guys. I appreciate it.
No, you know what I really liked about that? The name was Monkey Fist. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
So many people get hit with monkey fists in this movie. It was like that's the
A lot of monkey fists.
perfect beer pick.
I
lot of
mean,
ape-
I would
ape
actually
punches.
say that like the people, you couldn't even get hit with it. The fist was just so much bigger,
A lot of.
This is maybe if there's a beer called Monkey Palm, there's a lot
There
of
was like a
Schnars.
lot of
Monkey
open
Palm.
hand. yeah, there was
Schnars,
a
you
lot of
may
open
Schnars, you may want to
Monkey slap.
save your criticism till after we hear your word, okay?
hand. Yeah, all right, fair.
All right, guys, let's do it. Kong.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. From the prime time, bitch. Main feature.
And we're back. John Schnars,
Eric.
help me round out video store Schnars. I want to learn a little bit more about this guy.
the the legend.
Not
Ethan.
where I thought this was
Yeah, I
going.
didn't know where that's.
How old was video store Schnars?
So I did 3 years at the video store. The first 2 was under the original owner, and then he had to sell it. I mean, it was a failing video store. I mean, it was an independent video store. Like these things
I'm-
don't exist
I'm
anymore. so-
familiar. Yeah. I was gonna say you had the saloon door, so it had to be an indie.
Yeah. And that was like 88% of the profits, like roughly I would have estimated.
Would like the same dudes come in and rent the same porns, or were they like more
No,
connoisseurs?
no, they would do different porns. So,
Would
According
anybody-
to John's exhaustive notes
w-
that he took on the rentals of the
Would
perverts
anybody
that came
ever?
into
Would
the
anybody
store.
ever come back and be like, "Oh, can I just buy this one?"
no one,
Intercourse with a vampire again, Mr. Stevens.
it's,
You're gonna want to disinfect that one.
so the years were probably like 99 through 01. It was like 99, 2000, 2001, because it was like right before I graduated from high school. And so it was right. The interesting thing was it was right when DVDs were coming out. So like we were a true video store when I got there. And then probably like the first year I was there, we started to get DVDs. And there was this whole period where we were carrying both. And then it was like the only stuff we had on video was like the interesting weird shit that didn't get ported, because when they were first putting out DVDs, like a lot of stuff didn't have a DVD release.
2000,
still
2000,
so-
2001 was when this glorious VHS collection behind you started really filling out, because of that exact reason. Like stores were starting, once they were really stocked up on DVDs, they were starting to thin out their VHS selections.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's still like we had a really good horror section, so like there was a ton of shit that like I don't think I've ever seen anywhere else. And maybe now you can get it on like digital download or something, but even that is somewhat rare.
Would
Certainly.
I have an honest question, and I don't want to derail things too much. But Eric, what is the draw of VHS versus like DVD?
It's pure nostalgia. Like there's no technical reason why I like it. It's just that it has character. Its shittiness is character to me, and
Sure.
I like it's nostalgia. I like the smell. It's like it's a tactile thing. You put it in the machine, and it's like it makes noises and shit. It's awesome.
I like my movies to make noise.
It is purely a function of reminding me of my childhood.
All
Yeah,
right,
no,
all
I
right,
mean,
cool.
I
I
like
can
some-
appreciate that.
Yeah.
I was just curious
mean-
if there was like any like people still listen to records because records supposedly sound better
Yeah,
than
no, there's
everything
no.
else we have.
I mean, I do like honestly, there is like something that I find fascinating about the character of VHS, like the fact that it ages and just looks shitty and gets warbly after a while is like kind of awesome.
I think you just like adjusting the tracking on your VCR. I think you like a more active experience.
Excuse me, bro. I have auto tracking, so
I was about to ask,
Oh,
like,
wow.
are you like a purist where you have like
No,
just a
You've got the
standalone? or-
1995 special. They auto track now. Shit.
yeah, that's right.
Can you still buy a VCR if you wanted? Like, could I get on?
Oh yeah,
Amazon
yeah.
and
So
do
every
it?
once in a while, I'll see them like pop up on sale. or
Like not
something.
in a store. I'm sure on Amazon. The best place, honestly, is like go to a thrift store and you'll find like sick ass VCRs for like $10.
Wasn't there a story like a year or two ago that the last manufacturing factory that were making VCRs finally closed?
It was a couple months ago. Yeah, it was like somewhere in Korea or something like that.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say, wasn't there a story, and then describe the plot of that Ring movie we just watched.
I was about to say, I heard this story about Darlene's boyfriend
Yeah.
from Roseanne, where he bought one.
Anyway, John, I have zero segue for that, so please bring us the word of the day. We'll explore VHS stores a little next week for the fans.
I mean, we can keep this story going.
I already have more questions, so
I gotta say,
So-
every week I get a little bit more enraged, and it's been like 6-7 years that my beer segment does not have intro music.
Joe, if you find me right intro
Yeah.
music that I don't think YouTube will pull down for copyright, we'll do it.
we just need a beer guts.
Just a touch more every week I get enraged.
Listen, if
Just
somebody,
record me doing it.
you know what's funny, Joe? When I went through and I did the like 2 years worth of bumpers recently, like I made them, I was like, man, we should do beer guts, but I can't. I just couldn't. I need a good idea. I need creative inspiration for it.
All right. Let's get into this. So,
And Joe-
today's word-
Sweep this under the rug.
Joe,
John.
if we can come up with some audio, I will happily do it for you.
I'm totally kidding too. I just think it's funny.
I don't think you are though.
But I'm not.
Yeah.
So, today's word is skycentrism. So that's SKYCENTRISM.
Is that like
So
people who live in the sky that are racist?
No. It's so I'm gonna read to you here from Wikipedia because there's not an actual dictionary definition of this. So
You mocked my beer, but your word isn't an actual word.
so I was researching the Hollow Earth theories, which I will tie back to the film.
Oh, is it a real
momentarily.
conspiracy theory?
Yeah. So this is
Oh, I
this
love
is an
that.
alternative theory of Hollow Earth that instead of saying that humans live on the outside surface of a hollow planet, sometimes called a convex Hollow Earth hypothesis, some have claimed that humans live on the inside surface of a hollow spherical world, so that our universe itself lies in the world's interior. This has been called the concave Hollow Earth hypothesis or
What?
sky centrism.
Oh.
Yep.
Did you get this word from some crazy hobo that's on your street corner?
No, there is
yeah.
a very extensive section on the Wikipedia page of Hollow Earth theory.
Did you get this from InfoWars?
No, although I'm sure it has been covered there. So this is like a much more so Hollow Earth like is a pretty old conspiracy theory, and by old I mean like it's been around in sci-fi certainly for several centuries. It goes back, I mean, according to Wikipedia, you'll see it all the way back into like mythology, like ancient mythology, like pre BC. But in the 17th, 18th centuries, it's showing up in in writing, like in literature, and it's become like obviously pretty popular in sci-fi. So concave hollow Earth, this sky centrism idea, much newer, first kind of shows up around 1869, and then now lives kind of on the deep fringe of the hollow Earth.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
is this like right up there with like cloud, you know, contrails and
Vapor
shit like
trails.
that? Yeah.
What are they?
Lunar.
No,
Is this
I mean,
that
I would say
level,
this
or
is
like is this like
way-
Lil Wayne thinking the Earth is flat?
Yeah, no, this is up there with that, right? Like to me, so like we don't need to go down to the conspiracy theory rabbit hole right now, but like the it's what's
We
the
don't
vapor-
not need to.
the vapor trails one has there's like a specific name I'm forgetting, but like that is one that essentially the seed of it is that the government is lying to you, right? And like that's like a pretty like you can marshal all kinds of evidence, but like people will just like never believe that jets aren't like seeding the earth with like or the sky with shit. Concave hollow earth, like there's so much science that like points
Right.
away from any of these hollow earth
Like,
things that
hey,
like
bro, it's rocks and magma.
yeah, I mean, it's funny if you read the Hollow Earth Wikipedia page is pretty extensive, and you get down to this. There's a section that just says contrary evidence, and literally there's like 3 sections or 4 sections. Seismic, which is basically a lot of what they talk about in the film, which is there if you use seismic waves, you can measure the density of different parts of the Earth's crust and like what the Earth is made of. That's how they know what's like inside the Earth. And then there's like a like 4-sentence thing, gravity, and it's just like you can't explain gravity if you have any of these theories as like it is true. So yeah, and
Gravity's an illusion, bro.
So in Kong,
yeah, so in Kong, the Hollow Earth theory is essentially used to explain the existence of quote unquote monsters, which you kind of learned. It's not really a spoiler. This is like probably middle or beginning of the second act reveal. But essentially, and I can tee up like the beginning of the film if you want, but
Please
you've
do.
got what the hell? I'm gonna go. There's so many goddamn characters in this movie.
let's
gonna go
make
to
it
the
snappy
IMDb.
because I wasted half the show talking about your VHS job. So
Yeah, no. So we'll make it quick. So
it's
you've
my
got
fault for the record.
John Goodman is the sort of like leader of a secret government organization or a government-sponsored organization called Monarch, and in the beginning of the film, he's petitioning a senator to try to get funding and sort of like some support to make a visit to an island that has recently been discovered on satellite, which it already has the name Skull Island. Amusingly,
Looks like a skull
And-
dog.
it does look like a skull. So he takes a crack team of Corey Hawkins playing Houston Brooks and
Dr. Dre.
a woman whose character name is just San, played by Tian Jing. That is the 3-person team from Monarch. They go they're going to go to Skull Island, and they are escorted. This is 1973, as Eric mentioned, end of Vietnam War. They are escorted there by Sam Jackson and his like group of helicopter. They're like a helicopter unit from Vietnam. And then the only other 2 characters that join them are Tom Hiddleston, who plays, his name's James Conrad in the film, but he's basically like jungle guide that they take along. He's like a survivalist type who's like,
/ dreamboat.
well, I mean, that I thought that went without saying when I mentioned Tom Hiddleston. And then Brie Larson is a photographer who had been embedded in Vietnam for the war and is now kind of, she's like heard rumblings about this mission, and she like knows that there's something weird going on. So she's like, I gotta ride along. So that's kind of like the main crew. And they're going to Skull Island. As they arrive there in these helicopters, they are brutally assaulted by one Kong, who is the king of Skull Island. All
Is
the
that a
helicopters.
monkey?
He is some type of simian, I believe. He knocks all of their helicopters out of the sky, so they're all now stranded on the island. And it's at that point that Randa, the John Goodman character, reveals that Monarch has basically been exploring or trying to explore different unexplored parts of the world, because he has this theory that there is, like, Hollow Earth is true, or at least at some level is true. There are these giant pockets of underground areas that have been home to monsters. He believes this because he was on a ship. It was either during World War II or like right after World War II that was sunk in the middle of the ocean. He was the only survivor, and he claims to have seen like a giant monster that was like what sunk the ship.
Was his
So-
ship supposed to be the one that they showed in the briefing before the mission?
I don't think so.
It wasn't totally clear to me that it wasn't though. Also,
Yeah. It could have been, but that was definitely not sort of like teed up specifically.
so yeah, get us on the island.
Yeah, so basically they're on the island. They've all been knocked out of the sky. Samuel L. Jackson is super pissed
Kong
that his
just
team
fucked shit up.
Yeah, that Kong has taken off. So essentially the setup becomes Tom Hiddleston, Brie Larson, and then a couple other folks meet up with John C. Reilly, who had seen in kind of an opening sequence. He had crash landed on the island when he was dogfighting with a Japanese fighter pilot during World War II. So he's now been on this island for like 30 years. He looks like a crazy person. You can see him in the trailer. So you have Tom Hiddleston, Brie Larson, John C. Reilly, and then maybe like 2 or 3 other folks, including, John Ortiz, who plays the guy, Victor Nieves. That he's part of like some mapping organization that was like part of the cover for Monarch to be there. He was the one that gets ripped apart by the flying spiders or whatever the hell Mark called them earlier. And so like the tee up is basically you have their group who's trying to get they basically have 3 days to get across the island. That's the like main plot of the film. And then you also have Samuel L. Jackson, who has a bunch of the military folks. They are trying to find one of their other military guys and also locate all these weapons that they're going to plan to then use to attack Kong. And they also realize they only have 3 days to get to this, extraction point essentially. And then, Kong things ensue from there.
I feel like
Short and sweet, John.
you know what I
like it.
kept thinking about during this movie, and it's such a dumb thing to like think about. There's no way there would be enough food on this island for all these giant ass animals.
Yeah.
Like-
That is actually that is something that came up to me very specifically too.
Unless there's like
Yeah.
special
Argument is that they're feeding on each other, right? Like when you see Kong
but
eat that,
still,
like, giant
somebody's
octopus.
like the oxes have got to be herbivores or something, right?
Yeah.
Maybe
There's
there's
a lot of-
special
Yeah.
monster food in the holes in the earth.
You never know.
It's possible.
All
They
right.
could have just like a glandular thing.
Mark, what'd you
So-
think?
I can't tell if I love or hate John saying the word glandular is my
Mm.
first thought.
I'm into it.
I actually, so the
Turgid.
more I think about this movie, the more I liked it. I really enjoyed it in the moment. I think that it's pretty fun. I think we use the word pulpy a lot in our sort of internal discussion about it. I think there's a lot of like great actors in this movie, and it's almost weird how many like recognizable, I don't know if A-list is the right word, but like how many big name actors are in this movie. And
I
they're
mean,
just kind of like
I would say that
Brie Larson is pretty
Brie
legit.
Larson
so
is like pretty A-list.
I think a
at
lot
the-
of these people are.
at the moment.
Yeah.
Just Captain Marvel, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, there's no arguing that they're all. I think they're used to different levels of effectiveness. I think Brie Larson in particular. While I'm a huge fan of Brie Larson, I feel like she was just kind of like generic lady photographer character in this movie. But I think that overall it was super fun. I think that John C. Reilly in particular brought a lot of like just kind of ridiculousness to this movie that I thought was great. I think the effects were
Bro, what happened?
No idea. The call's disconnected.
That's so weird. We were all still on. We were just like chilling.
No, it just froze.
We were just talking about you. Did you dial those other guys in?
Yeah, I'm waiting on them. It literally looks like Joe's not even on right now. There he is.
That was weird. We all started disappearing one by one. We got
It was
scared.
frightening.
No, for me, it just everything froze. Mark, continue.
I just thought this movie was a lot of fun. I don't know. I mean, I don't know
Yeah,
at what point you
I
lost me,
don't
but
know.
I just,
I don't think anyone knows where we dropped off.
yeah, I really enjoyed it and thought it was a lot of fun, and I like it the more that I think about it.
Okay. Everybody's in reverse order. My monitor now is really weird. Joe.
Yeah, I probably like this maybe even a little more than Mark. I grew up watching like. Do you guys remember Eric and Mark? We used to get that like it was like a Boston affiliate station for some reason, like in our area, like upstate New York. And like every Saturday, I feel like they would run like a marathon of like the old King Kong movies
talking
and the
about,
old
like-
like Godzilla movies.
Are you talking about like Pix 11 or whatever? 'Cause that
Yes,
was New York.
yeah.
That's from New York City, I believe.
Was it? I thought I
Like
remember
New
them always
Jersey
having
or
like
some
Bruins
shit.
games and stuff. But whatever. Like every like Saturday and Sunday they used to run like marathons of like the old Godzilla movies and like the King Kong ones, especially like the cheesy sort of knockoff and like the Godzilla versus King Kong movies. Like I loved those when I was a kid, so I was pretty pumped for when this was coming out. And I loved it. Like I thought it had a really sort of cool, almost like comic book feel to it, especially like the upfront, like before they kind of land on the island. I loved the way that like that all played out. I loved like Kong himself. I thought looked amazing. I love the way that they used. I'm saying I loved a lot, but I really like the way that they used the
Get
music.
it, Joe. You like the
like-
movie, all right?
Like the music in this is awesome. Like it's all like music from the period, but I thought like the way they use it is just awesome.
Great 70s.
Yeah, for sure.
tracks.
Like especially when these Black Sabbath Paranoid during like
Sabbath,
the sort of
yeah.
landing and like that fight with Kong. Like it was amazing. Like I got super. I stood up. I started screaming in the theater and like got really excited and high fived people.
What was the one Mark
Uh,
said? They were blasting like running through the jungle or something.
Oh yeah, like while they were running through
Yeah,
the
yeah.
jungle, like it was a little on the nose,
Ugh.
but whatever.
Get it?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I mean, I'll agree with Mark. Like, I thought all the characters were a little sort of like surface level. Like, they really you didn't get a ton of detail on anyone, and they were pretty interchangeable. But I thought they kind of served their purpose in this. And we'll kind of talk about like the stinger after the credits. Like, it got me super pumped up for like where this thing was going. So I would give it a thumbs up.
Casey.
I was up there with Joe. I think I really love this from beginning to end. I didn't have really any problems. I went into this. This movie was really overhyped in my head because of the trailers. I was really excited. It's a giant freaking monkey that looks bigger than King Kong. The King Kong we're used to. He was batting helicopters out of the sky, which seems bananas. And
That scene
I
was
got-
so awesome when they first get in there.
oh, I know. And I got there and it was totally bananas, and I enjoyed it from end to end. I mean, I've heard a couple complaints that like it got a little slower in the second and third acts, but I really didn't mind it. I think they carried it through well, getting a lot of the personal drama in there with John C. Reilly's character, stuff like that. Him leaving the tribe thing and that stuff, and as they started to explore more, so it was really cool. I was also worried going into the trailer because I mean everybody was overanalyzing this, talking about all the giant monsters that were in the trailers that we're going to see, and I was a little worried it's going to be a little too much where they're going to be throwing these cartoony CGI monsters at us left and right, but they actually fitted in there really well. It was pretty natural on how they could fit these in there.
I wish
So-
I hadn't basically seen all of them in the trailer because the reveals would have been way cooler.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I agree.
They do, and they show
But-
everything pretty upfront in the film, which
And I
is
think,
an
but I think
interesting
they
choice,
needed to get out like, hey, this is a different kind of Kong movie. So I think
Yeah.
that they needed to show that stuff, but it's just a bummer because it would have been amazing. Like the reveal of the ox thing would have been super
that one
awesome.
for sure.
Yeah, and at the end of this is still a King Kong movie, but like Eric said, it's nothing like any King Kong movie we've seen before. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
That they can still play with that theme and do some new stuff with it.
Yeah, Schnars.
Yeah, I mean, I like this a lot. I think it's a lot of fun. It has the right kind of balance in terms of tone and action, and doing some fan service around some of the King Kong stuff. Though I will say I'm probably on the like lower end in terms of like where I would rank this, but for me, and I started to talk a little bit about some of the stuff. There's a ton of characters in this movie. There's actually like a very, in my mind, aggressive amount of plot for what they actually probably needed. There's like a whole lot of stuff about, or not a whole lot, but there's like a fair bit of stuff about like the local people on the island that literally like is like has no material value other than just to be like John C. Riley wasn't by himself this whole time. Like he was living with these weird people, and like it kind of allows him to like explain some of the backstory. It gives them like an easy way to do that. But I don't know. I mean, so I think it's a little stuffed in terms of both plot and people. I mean, you guys mentioned like A-list actors, like even the like third tier people in this, like the people who have one name, are like fairly big names. I was trying to think of the guy.
Cher was not in this movie, John.
No, but I mean like the character names, like right. No, I mean we didn't even talk about. So the guy who plays like the nerdy, like young black scientist is like the actor who played Dr. Dre. And then who's the guy who plays Cole?
Shea Wiggum.
Yeah, Shea Wiggum. I mean, like in other movies, he's like a third or fourth person on the banner, and here he's like literally giving like a really solid performance, but there's just like a lot of people, and it's like a lot to get done.
There are quite a few people in this movie.
I think that they handle
for a
it
movie
better.
that's about King Kong, like
the-
just wrecking shit. Like it's a lot of characters.
But it could.
Yeah.
I think that they actually still handled it pretty well. Like it could have been a lot less tight.
Like listen, I am still positive on this film overall, but like I'm just saying, like they're like even the stuff about like the guy who's like writing home to his son, which is like a quote unquote joke throughout the film, because all the like guys are like ripping on him for like writing notes to his son, and then he's just like, somewhat spoiler alert, like unceremoniously murdered, like pretty quickly in the movie. Like there's just stuff like that where it's just like I don't know why they put so much energy into that character, because they could have achieved a lot of the same stuff without him, and it takes up a lot of screen time.
The only thing I could think is when there's a really crucial part in the movie where Sam Jackson, who basically eventually just becomes obsessed with Kong because he killed his men, even after the point, and this is in the trailer, so like we know that Kong is like sort of a good guy in this movie, like, but Sam Jackson's like, nah, he killed my man, I'm gonna murder him. And so the guy writing to his kids happened to go down with a helicopter that had a bunch of ammunition in it that Jackson wants to use to kill Kong. But the other half of the group that he's been split up from is now like the pro Kong faction. And he at one point has to convince them to do something very dangerous in order to get back to this helicopter. And he basically just says that he wants to go save that guy. So I don't know if maybe it's like sort of building up, so the idea that they would had sympathy for that guy. Like, I don't even know if I guess they would know that, but
again, like my point is just like I get it. Like, and again, like it's not that it like ruins the movie. I'm not trying to say that. It's literally just like there is a lot of stuff here that's a little extraneous. The only thing I can think of is I'm looking now. So the guy Tony Kebbell, who plays that character, his name's Jack Chapman in the film, is also credited as Kong. So I don't know if they were like kind of like trying to play. Yeah, he's credited as Jack Chapman / Kong.
Huh.
That actor.
nice.
So I don't know if they're like trying to do something cute there, where it's like, but it just again, like what's to a certain extent, I'm just kind of like, what's the point?
Yeah. I friggin' loved this movie. So I don't necessarily think that Schnarz's criticisms are off, but I just like.
I know they weren't.
I really don't have anything critical to say about it. It's like the thing that really blew me away about this movie is and we talk about it every time one of these like really awesomely animated movies comes up, but just when we started this show, we were still really like as a society trying.
Oh boy!
Don't hide behind society, Eric.
We were really still trying to break out of the bad CG of the early 2000s. Like it had not happened yet.
Sure.
And like
Eric uses the royal we as a society,
right? And it's not just that, like it's just the place that we've come where they can have like a giant CGI ape and have actual really good fight choreography with a giant CGI lizard monster is like kind of mind blowing. Like they're actually doing logical things in a fight that you would think that those two creatures would try to do to each other, and they did this really well in the Godzilla film too. So it's not surprising. Um, so like it's just fucking the action is mind blowing. Like when he's swatting the helicopters out of the air, just murdering fools, and then like
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would have taken more Kong. Like, there's actually
Yeah,
not
that's-
that much Kong destroying stuff.
what
Yeah, if I had one complaint, I would actually,
What
I
I
would agree with that.
liked-
Like, I would want more.
It does. There are moments where they slow it down a little and focus more on characters, but the reason why I was able to stay with it was because it like you're still getting these really cool, tantalizing glimpses of the world, and everything's really beautiful. Like it's just is shot really well. The score is so great, like mixed with these '70s tracks. Like a moment I think of is you're in the place learning about the villagers, and this is a definite like second act we've slowed down moment. But then there's this really great scene where Brie Larson wanders outside and finds one of the like weird turtle water buffaloes, like with a helicopter on top of it, and she's trying to move it, which obviously she can't. And then but Kong comes out, like in this really cool. They have this like scene.
I will remove the helicopter from this
Yeah, but
water
he's just.
buffalo.
But really, this is the first time he's seeing them since he murdered all the soldiers and was being shot at, and the fact that he doesn't try to kill her is actually a really big deal, and she's scared. But they have this nice moment with each other. Like I think that's a really cool thing this movie does, is that even when it's not being big and loud and crazy, it does those moments really well.
Well, I think they went really out of their way to this isn't the right word probably, but personify Kong. They gave him a lot of character. You see his
Personifies
pissed-
there. He's not a person.
Kong is like a
So-
disappointed father. Like he's just even when they're shooting at him, like afterwards, he's just like, "Damn it, man! I didn't want to kill all you motherfuckers, but you were like hitting me with missiles and shit."
But
He's
he
just
shows it-
tired.
yeah.
He seems
He
like
looks
he's just
tired.
tired.
He does seem
He shows a
tired.
lot of human emotion in there because he's obviously sad and lonely. And then, like with the part with the water buffalo that you're talking about, he's like, "Well, I did this and he didn't deserve it, so I'm going to clean this up." And he pulled the helicopter off the water buffalo and just happened to see her standing there, yada yada.
Which is another testament to me to the CGI too, because like, can you imagine them trying to have that type of emotion conveyed like 10
Yeah.
years ago? Like I'm looking at one of these stills. They have this like what was a very Jurassic Park moment where the two, and actually like this film reminded me of the first Jurassic Park, and that I think it really nails the wonder aspect of it. Like in there's key moments where it's really like even just the way it was shot, like key
Yeah.
moments where they're really focusing on the act, like in a Spielberg way, focusing on the actors' reactions more than what they're seeing. And and so there's this moment where they're up in the tree at night, and Kong comes out of the mist and just looks at them, and there's like so much expression in his face. Like I was actually really blown away by that scene. That
It was
like,
really good. It was really well done. Like
Yeah.
I
Well, I
loved
think-
what they did with him.
It's interesting too, Eric, to your point, because they've been getting better, I think, at these movies. So the thing that's surprising to me is they quote, they show you everything right up front. Like you see Kong in the opening sequence, not in full kind of the full like picture of him, but the way they then reveal him is like fairly quick in the like helicopter sequence, but it's still they manage to like capture, to your point, a lot of the wonder, and some of it's just like it's in the cinematography, it's in like the specific shot selection and the way they frame some of it. I love the I think it's might be the first time you get like a clear look at him. He like he grabs one of the helicopters, and you get the shot through the helicopter of just his eyes like looking into it.
Oh, yeah.
that whole
That
scene,
was
and
great.
they use sound really well too, because like when the helicopters are doing their bombing raid, they're blasting Led Zeppelin, but when this happened,
Black Sabbath.
when he
Yeah, it was
oh,
Black
I'm
Sabbath,
sorry,
you
you're right.
plebe.
When he starts attacking, the
Great
sound,
use of the word "plebe," Casey.
the sound goes like mute, but you can still hear the music. Like everything's really faint, like you have ringing in your ears or something. It's like that whole
Yeah.
scene is brilliantly shot. It's really awesome.
So the one thing I was going to ask you guys, I don't know if you guys looked at the director of this. So he
I
is
looked
like,
at him.
he's not a nobody, but he is like not the person you would have expected to have directed this film. So from what I can tell, because I don't recognize any of his other credits, he has some Funny or Die Presents credits, Eric. I thought you would appreciate that.
Ah,
Sure.
he looks to be like a buddy of oh god damn it, Megan Mullally and what's her husband's name? Who's on
Nick Offerman.
Nick
Nick
Offerman.
Offerman, yeah.
So the only other like feature he has to his name is a movie called The Kings of Summer, which is like a comedy / like adventure film that Mullally and Nick Offerman are in. And then he's done like a ton of like shorts and TV and
Huh.
shit like that. So that to me is really interesting. Like they essentially got like a comedy director to do this, and again bring this like really interesting vibe to it. And I think that's where some of the kind of like pulpier elements come from. If you then look at the cinematographer, is exactly who you would expect. Like he did Super 8, he did 300, or he was involved in 300. Like so he's done a lot of these like big cinematic
he lit the
action type things.
he lit the green screen on 300.
Yeah.
Well, but he did Superman or Batman versus Superman. You know, so he did a bunch. He's actually, it looks like he's worked a ton with what the fuck's the guy's name who did Sucker Punch, and Zack Snyder. He's done like all of Zack Snyder's movies. So you have Zack Snyder's cinematographer who also did Super 8, which is sweet, obviously, and then combine it with this like comedy director, and this is sort of what you get. And it's actually like a really interesting mix that you don't see
I like the
with a
vibe
lot of these other films.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like the
Well,
kind
I
of,
think too, like if you look at a movie, because obviously we're gonna make these comparisons. Like if you look at the Godzilla movie that we saw, it was pretty humorless, right? Like it was very much like
Yeah.
action movie, super serious, and this is kind of, I mean, there are serious threats, and it's actually, even the kills though are kind of hilarious. Like there's like, you know, the one scene where they're on the boat and the guy's like, "Ooh, we finally made it," and he didn't even finish his sentence, and he gets like whisked off and like ripped into 6 pieces.
Well,
This,
you knew that
yeah.
dude was getting
this
Yeah, but,
movie.
like,
got real
th-
good.
It was very, it's just a certain sort of sensibility to have this monster movie with these like very slapstick deaths of major characters, of characters that are like pretty important to the
Well,
story.
again, like Jurassic Park, like let's not forget a dude got eaten off of a toilet while like
Yeah.
that-
Yeah. I
Poopy
think
talk.
I like to Mark's point though. I think there's a lot of the kills in this where that does have a serious tone to it, and they do add some humor. There's a lot of awe around the kills that go on here. There's a lot of moments when things get killed in this movie, and find yourself out loud going, "Oh, that was awesome."
Well,
Like-
and they did there's a lot of very creative PG-13 violence in this movie, I would call it. Like the scene where they're in the jungle and they discover that giant spider, and they look, and one of the soldiers has been completely impaled by one of the spider legs. Is like, that's one of them that was surprisingly violent for a PG-13 one. The one I just mentioned with the guy getting torn apart was actually pretty clever the way they did it. They did it as like a shadow, so it's not like it.
well, and
it's
he's
not
far.
like
It's far
super-
away too. It's like in the distance.
Yeah, but like it's pretty clear what happens, right?
Yeah.
So they were very creative with it in that way, and I appreciated that. Like it's not just big monster movie destruction. Like you just assume everyone gets like crumbled by all this, just, you know, things that are falling and whatever. It's like there's a lot of very creative, deaths in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, and you guys were right before that were talking about the pacing and Godzilla and stuff. Like this movie is so much better structured than Godzilla and paced. Like if you remember, I feel like Godzilla is actually kind of a weak film that gets saved the moment that Godzilla rips that monster's mouth open and fucking fire breathes down it. Like the last half an hour of that movie saves what was otherwise like kind of a convoluted mess. Like this has
Yeah.
such a better structure to it that I hope that the people who made this can achieve that with whatever they're gonna do with
So,
Godzilla in the future.
It's sort of interesting. So I also looked at the screenwriters on this one, because there's a lot of screenwriters. It's 4 screenwriters. So the mix is a guy who's done a Bourne film and like a couple other sort of like big Hollywood box office stuff, like things you would recognize. One of the guys is one of the writers on Godzilla, and the other guy is the writer for Jurassic World. So like it's sort of this like weird mix. And Eric, like I don't disagree with you. I would actually argue in some ways, like for me, this movie gets saved by a lot of the action in the final 30 minutes as well. Like the last fight sequence with Kong and the fucking like
Oh,
King
God.
Lizard, which like first of all, it was like somewhat ridiculous where they're like they like tee up that there's this like giant lizard thing that you like are gonna see at some point, and like the lizards end up like being like kind of not that big a thing in the film. This is again like when I talk about like there's so much narratively happening, like, and then all of a sudden it's like, now the giant lizard's awake and Kong has to fight, and so like
That
I'm
fight
not.
was awesome though.
It was
Yeah.
amazing, and that's what I'm saying. Like I forgave everything about the setup when that fight happened, and I was just like, "Nope, that's cool. I'm in."
There's
I'm in
only
for
one
this."
moment that I like called shenanigans on, and that's that he has Brie
Here we
Larson.
go.
He has Brie Larson in his hand at one point. Like she is inside of his hand, and he punches the thing, and she lives. And I was like,
he also
So he
really?
doesn't
gets
punch
his
the thing.
hand
He
into
rips his
mouth.
fist all the
Yeah,
way
yeah.
down.
He rips his fist in. Like that was impossible. Like, come on.
Wait, didn't he? He did it with the other hand though.
In a
No.
universe.
No, that was the same
where-
hand because then he went like this and opened his hand up, and she was in it.
Well, maybe
No,
Brie
but
Larson.
no,
helped
but
him.
he ripped the tongue out. To Joe's point, he ripped his tongue out with the other hand.
Oh, okay.
'cause he
I thought,
definitely-
and I was confused, so I thought it was the same hand, and I was like, that's bullshit.
No, there's
mean-
not one flaw in this movie.
the thing with Godzilla, it's funny because Eric, to your point, like I think back on that movie pretty fondly, even though like I think you're right, and I remember that sequence being
We're
like
talking
so
about the 2000 Godzilla, to be
Yeah.
clear, right?
yeah, the 2014. That
Matthew
movie was
Broderick.
over 2 hours long. Like that was it. For as much as happens in Kong, it is only about an hour and 45 minutes. Like they at least knew better than to like
And it's
let
a
it get.
very straightforward story, right? It's like,
Yeah.
we have to get off this island, and that's it.
Yeah.
Whereas
but
in Godzilla, it was like,
going on in
we
it.
have to transport this nuclear bomb. We've got to do this. In
Well,
this certain
Godzilla also
period of
had
time.
that. It also had that weird problem where like it had Bryan Cranston in it and used him in all the marketing, and then he was in it
for
for like
12
15
minutes.
minutes or something, and then we spent all the movie like on the boat chasing the. I don't know, like it just that thing was kind of a mess in a lot of ways.
So
Yeah, very
It's
much so.
cool,
You
like
just-
it was a cool movie, but it just was not as solid as this.
well, you just reminded me though, and we sort of, I think Joe might have teed this up, but John C. Riley, like
It's fucking
to
awesome.
me, like this is a completely mediocre movie without John C. Riley. Maybe not mediocre, but it
See,
is.
I expected more from him. Like I thought the trailer played him up a lot more. Like I was expecting like Talladega Nights, John C. Riley, and he was just kind of
Honestly,
like.
I thought he was great,
It's
and
not
I thought he
slapstick, Joe.
and I
mean-
thought he was great, and I thought he was like the perfect person to, because here's the secret about John C. Riley, like he's
Oh,
funny.
shh.
Listen, he,
gather round.
he's funny and
He
goofy.
smells like cheese.
He's funny and goofy, but he's secretly actually a really good emotional actor, like capable of like
Oh yeah, we've all seen
conveying
Chicago, Eric.
of like conveying a lot of layers to a
Magnolia?
character.
Come on, guys.
You know what I mean? And I think he's bringing
Uh,
some of that here. Like it's not just,
Yeah.
Steve Brule.
Yeah,
Well, he's-
I think John C. Riley's like an amazing actor, but
Yeah,
like
no, I
he's
thought
super
it was great.
too.
He's
You dingus.
responsible for my favorite line in this movie, and I don't know if Eric was sleeping early, but I texted Eric immediately after it happened so I would remember it. And I think I actually already said it on the show, but it's actually towards the end of the movie, which is weird because it seems like it would be like something that they would use to kind of set up the setting a little bit. But there's like, they hear this noise above him, and he's like, they're like, yeah, we've got these giant ants, and you hear this little noise, and he's like, sounds like birds. They're fucking ants. And I just like, I don't know why, something about
And the
that
guy looks
line,
at
I
him
just
like, "Whoa."
lost it, laugh. And I think that like, I kind of agree that he was such a integral part of like why this movie was so fun, but they could have used him even more, right? Like that's a line that just like a throwaway line towards the end of the movie.
But that does
And if
also
you get some
easily
of that-
it also easily gets out of control if you do it too much.
Yeah,
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
because then
I'll
it
agree
becomes
with that.
campy. And they did such. I thought my favorite part was they did such a great job with this, with his character, and the little bit we do see him that you are totally invested in his character by the end of this. So when this is slightly spoilerly, but as we get to the end of the movie, it starts to fade to black, and you're thinking, "Oh shit, we're not going to find out what happens with him."
It was
Which
a nice
luckily we
little,
do, but-
it was nice to have another person in the group with a different motivation to get home. Like with the added extra like, and I love
Yeah.
this little moment where he's standing kind of between the tribe and the boat, and he's got to decide like, is it like, can I handle going home? Is this what I really want? And then like he has this kind of emotional, he's got to like say goodbye or whatever, and to the tribe who doesn't speak, which is like funny. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a
He was.
sweet moment.
I really liked him, and he had a killer beard. I'm bummed that he cut it off at one point.
It was
That
still a
scene
pretty
was
good
great,
beard
too.
after he cut it.
Yeah, that was a great scene though too. It's like, I'm gonna kill you tonight.
Yeah, even the
That was-
scene,
that
even
was
even the scene from the trailer where he tells them like,
Stab you tonight.
even the scene from the trailer where he's like, "Y'all a good bunch of boys. You shouldn't have come here. We're all gonna die together."
Yeah.
Like it was
so
awkward. It
good.
was awkward in the
What
trailer,
a good
but
bunch of, and
it
what
was-
wasn't in the trailer is he said, "What a good bunch of boys to die with."
it was
Yeah.
awkward in the trailer. But in the context of what was going on in the movie, it was so much worse
Yeah.
because like everybody had
It was
just
good.
died basically, and they're like meeting back up, and it was bad news.
You guys should check out at some point. Check out the director's picture on IMDb. He has a pretty epic beard
Yeah.
Mark,
himself.
Yeah.
He's an epic
He
beard.
looks
dude.
like a
Mark, are we
drifter.
doing movie guide or are we moving on?
Yeah, so like usually when you ask me those questions offline, you can just like smoothly transition into it. But
You
yeah, I'm
didn't-
gonna do it.
Oh,
I'm
now
ready
I,
to go.
now I see. That. You should have answered
so-
sooner.
Yeah. So if you're new to this world, movieguide.org is our very favorite website because it reviews all of our mainstream movies from a Christian leaning perspective so that we
Helps
can
you stay
avoid
woke.
taking our that's right. This helps me stay woke. That's not true. Anyways, movieguide.org is a website that reviews movies for their objectionable content, and we like to read entries for the movies we review because they're always funny. There's lots of spoilers in here, so go see this movie. But yeah, here we go. So, Kong Skull Island features a very strong moral worldview. Overall, stresses doing the right thing, helping and protecting others, family, courage, and fighting evil. With light redemptive elements of sacrifice and 2 or 3 positive references to God, plus strong patriotic elements where American military and American soldiers are generally honored, even though a military leader becomes too obsessed with malice and revenge, a reference to the pagan false religion when an American says some natives worship King Kong as a god, and some strong environmentalist elements, but they stop short of being too radical or politically correct. Oh boy. 22 obscenities, including 1 F word and some S words, combined with a few H and D words. What the
Mm. What's
All
the
right,
D
damn
word?
D words.
So I assume H is hell, but I don't. D? Did they say damn? I don't think there's
What?
any dicks in this movie. No dicks.
You want to ask my D?
Yeah. 0 strong profanities, 2 light exclamatory profanities, plus an MF word is started but left unfinished. Scandalous. Strong, intense action violence includes King Kong attacks and grabs and smashes numerous flying helicopters. King Kong flings a giant palm tree and part of a helicopter into a couple helicopters. 2 helicopters crash into one another and explode. Soldiers fired machine guns at King Kong. Other explosions. Soldiers use napalm against King Kong, and he thrashes around. Giant lizards with vicious-looking teeth attack people and swallow some of them whole. 2 large prehistoric birds grab a man and take him to high in the sky, where silhouetted against the sun, they tear off one of his arms. It's very poetic.
It's true.
Giant lizard monsters exploded and shot. 2 enemy fighter planes crash, but the pilots survive and battle one another until they run into King Kong, and the movie cuts away. King Kong battles a giant octopus monster, and he has some tentacles for lunch. And in parentheses, I'm not kidding you, it says sushi with an exclamation point.
Dude, they have a sense of humor over there.
Wow, yeah,
Movie Guide.
apparently they're developing a sense of humor.
like it.
Woman falls into a large river and almost drowns, but King Kong lifts her out of the water while battling a giant lizard monster and saves her. King Kong battles 2 or 3 giant lizards. King Kong gets trapped by an anchor chain from a shipwrecked boat and has to free himself to kill a giant lizard attacking him. People battle a giant daddy long-legged spider and cut its legs and shoot off its body, and some spider goo falls on the soldier.
Why
Still
is the
alive,
anchor
lying on the
chain
ground.
like a talking point? Like why is it?
I don't know, but spider goo is my new favorite. No real
It's my
sexual
nickname in high
content,
school.
but 2 men visit a man in a bar, and he appears to be inside a house of prostitution, where women in skimpy lingerie are seen with other men, but nothing more salacious than that. Upper male nudity as soldiers on a mission have their photos taken, plus women in skimpy clothes in one scene, but nothing really salacious shown in the theatrical version. Alcohol use, brief smoking, and obsession, malice, and revenge, but rebuked. And the comment that God appears to not have finished his creation on one isolated island seems to be a prehistoric throwback.
Yeah, it's pretty PG. Like, really, Brie Larson in a tank top is about the sauciest thing you'll find in
Well,
this movie.
they do
That's
go
enough.
into that. They go into that one bar in like I think
Yeah.
it's Thailand to find Tom Hiddleston. So,
Oh, yes, that's right. God, that
I
guy.
mean,
Eric,
it's
there's
still
also
pretty
spider
Can
goo
we-
in this movie, which
can
is
we
plenty
talk
of
about- Can we talk about how smolderingly handsome Tom Hiddleston is?
Oh, I can talk about that for hours.
Good lord.
I mean, I was actually going to bring up the fact that like we literally went through this entire review without even talking about Tom Hiddleston or
He's
Brie
great.
Larson.
He's actually one of the two of them are like, I think, very strong here. They're just
But like you could have replaced them with like mannequins almost and gotten away with it. Like they really don't bring too much.
maybe
I mean,
if they're the
thing-
most beautiful and handsome
Larson-
mannequins in the world, John.
well, sure. I mean, but they're also like teeing up theoretical future films for them instead of like really giving them too much to do here. So
Yeah, I mean, Brie Larson is an Oscar-winning actress, and so she certainly doesn't need to be in this movie. But I would also argue that even though she's awesome in this movie, it could have been like literally anyone else. Like it's not she was great, but
yeah, no,
Yeah.
she's very. They're both very fetching, right?
Isn't that kind of sometimes though kind of refreshing to see with people of their caliber, just to show that they are not too full of themselves. They're willing to take roles where they're not necessarily the biggest thing going in the movie.
no, it's it's awesome.
Assuming
And
they're getting a healthy paycheck here.
Well,
and,
right,
like,
it
they
allows
could
them to
also
have a little
pass
bit of
that healthy
fun.
paycheck to other people.
She
Right, it allows them to
probably.
have a little
My
bit of
guess
fun, and
is.
in the case of a movie like this,
my
they
guess
can,
is
they
she-
can cash out pretty handily.
I would guess she shot this before the Captain Marvel announcement was made too. Like that's a pretty big deal for her, I think.
I mean, this is a
Yeah.
pretty big movie. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
it did as well as they probably expected, but I mean,
Well, it's the interesting thing too is like this movie. We didn't talk about this, but this was backed by Tencent, which is like a huge Chinese company. So there is like a really interesting sort of like international element to this film, which
for
is
sure.
somewhat you can see it in the casting. But I think you can also look at this as like Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson. If Brie Larson is like right now at least known mainly for Room, which like I can't imagine it like a huge international.
21 Jump Street.
21
John.
Jump Street is my touchstone for Brie Larson.
Okay,
so-
all right. Again, like comedies like that don't always travel that well overseas, but like something like Kong Skull Island is actually killing overseas,
Oh,
even while
sure,
it's
yeah.
only doing
Yeah,
okay
sure.
in the US. So
have you guys seen that The Night Manager, the Tom Hiddleston? It was on Amazon.
I thought we talked about it, but maybe we talked about it
Maybe,
just
maybe it's
when
just you and I. It is so good. He is
very,
awesome.
very
Like,
All right.
yeah.
like-
I could talk about how handsome he is all day, but we got to wrap, Joe. So,
no, I'm not done.
all right, guys. Would you recommend it, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely.
Casey, John,
Absolutely.
Mark? In the theater?
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you
Listen,
still can, for
I was
sure.
forced
would
to see
definitely-
this. I was forced to see this movie in 3D, and it's fucking bullshit, and it sucks, and it was dark, and I wanted to stab everyone in the face that was in that decision tree that led to
You're
me
really holding that down.
seeing it in 3D. 3D sucks. It's fucking terrible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
this is
I
one of the
agree.
few movies that like I'm actually really happy that I saw in the theater. I didn't see it in 3D,
If
but
you want to make
there's
like
definitely like a couple scenes where I felt like they were playing up to that. But other than that,
like
I
if you
didn't
want to
see
make a
any-
cheesy My Bloody Valentine in 3D, like go right ahead, but don't make me watch a beautifully cinematographied movie in 3D because then the projector's going to be too dark and everything's going to look like mud. So
Yeah, so don't see it in 3D,
pissed.
but
I mean,
Big
I saw it
Monkeys-
in regular D and it was fine.
if you can get regular D, just check it out.
if you can get the regular D.
All right, it's time.
Lucky if you can get regular D, lucky you.
Let us do fan mail.
Ray Peterson's new neighbors are the kind of folks you'd expect in the burbs. They're quiet,
No one goes in, no one comes out.
industrious,
Your neighbors are murdering people.
handy,
I'm going over the fence, and I'm not coming back till I find a dead body.
and to get on their bad side, why he'd rather die first. Tom Hanks in an exclusive you won't see on HBO or Cinemax. The Burbs. Sunday on Showtime.
This is Ashley C. Williams from The Human Centipede, and you're listening to Bloody Good Horror Podcast.
Send your emails to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or hit us up on Twitter at BGHorror with the hashtag AskBGH. And don't forget to pick up back episodes of the show at podcast.bloodygoodhorror.com.
And we are back. So's my phlegm, Schnars.
Cool story.
Yeah.
All the yums.
Yep. Skylar, aka Skizbot, says, I always say there's no better way to begin studying an entirely new and unspoiled ecosystem filled with countless undiscovered species than by bombing the ever-loving shit out of them. Science. I'm not sure if it was the intention of the filmmakers, but when Kong showed up and started batting choppers out of the sky, I was completely on his side.
I think that is intentional.
I'm guessing.
Well, they
yes.
were, seismic charges.
I mean,
something, right?
and that is like somewhat explained later in the film because
No, they were just bombs.
You know,
He was just lying about them being seismic things.
no, I think
Oh.
they were seismic, but they were just trying to like scare the shit out of the creatures and get them to come out and start
Yeah.
destroying things.
To be fair, I had to pee during this, so I missed about 5 minutes.
Next up, Michael. What is your favorite subgenre of horror and what movie would you recommend? I'm new to horror, but have
Oh,
seen
God.
many of the popular franchises, so I'm looking forward to movies that are not as well known or maybe underappreciated in your opinion. I really enjoy the podcast. Appreciate the work you put into it every week. Keep it up, Michael. So I have 2 recommendations. I think I like to go back to if people are like, hey, what do I watch? This is really golden period for me in the early 2000s where I started discovering these like direct-to-video horror films that were actually really well made. And the 2 that my go-to 2 are the original Ginger Snaps and May. And actually, if you like the original Ginger Snaps, watch the second one too. 'cause it's
Wait,
really awesome.
Sorry, what is the subgenre that you're
subgenre?
describing?
Well, I don't know because I actually don't like werewolf movies. Like that's what's interesting about Ginger Snaps is like it's pretty much the only werewolf movie that I really like.
Dog Soldiers, dude. Come on.
Dog Soldiers was cool.
I mean, let's not go down this rabbit hole. What was the one that we just watched with the blind old man? That was kind of interesting.
I didn't see that.
Oh,
Oh,
dude.
No,
we
the
definitely did. We
No,
reviewed it for the show like a year ago.
I hosted the
yeah, with
show.
what's her name from the Evil Dead remake?
I did not see it.
Oh.
Wait, really?
Okay. Yeah, Eric, I thought about this question a little bit because you did give us a heads up on it.
Yeah.
I don't know that I have like a great subgenre. I was trying to think of like, I mean, this has been well documented, but not discussed recently really on the podcast. But, I love Cronenberg. I love the Cronenberg-esque films. So I was trying to think of if they're like psycho horror, not psych, but like because so much of them are like interior shit. And like you look at a film like The Brood and like what that movie's actually about, and it's fucking crazy, and it just ends up in like really wacky places. So I'll just say Cronenberg or Cronenberg-esque as a subgenre, and you should watch The Brood, obviously.
I really like horror comedies. Like I like when those are done well. Like a Zombieland or like Army of Darkness is probably like the most famous one. Like
Hell Baby, dude.
Hell Baby's really good. Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Like I
Tucker,
love
yeah.
those. Like when they do them well. Even like what is it? What's that Johnny Depp with the Sleepy Hollow?
Yeah.
Like I think that kind of borders on it. Like
You know what he should do, actually? We were recommending this last week. Go to bloodygoodhorror.com and search for the top 25 horror films of the decade. And we did a top 25 list from 2000 to 2010. It's actually it's a really legit list of movies that would be a great place to start if you're like really trying to get into the genre and you're looking for more modern stuff. You know what I mean? Like some people are not necessarily, especially younger, going to be able to go back to the stuff that we loved as kids and appreciate in the same way. Even though I do think some of that's worth it, but
I would go even one step further and say go to the bloodygoodhorror.com website and check out the link for Killer Flicks.
Ooh.
Plug in some info on what kind of movies you're in the mood for and see what gets recommended, eh? Huh?
You can go straight to
Casey.
killer-flicks with an X.com. And it's
There you go.
Flicks. Killer Flicks.
As far as genres, for me, I'm kind of in the same boat. There's not necessarily a specific subgenre, but I would say like John's into Cronenberg-esque movies. I think it's pretty clear that I'm pretty into really cheesy, campy, whether it's intentional or not, 80s type horror movies. So there's a lot of good stuff out there you can find that would fall into that. You can get into as mainstream or as obscure as you want. So things like Sorority Babes in the Slime Ball Bowl-orama, things like that, which are just kind of sleazy, usually pretty funny, don't take themselves too seriously, are always a good time, especially when you get the 80s special effects in there, practical effects.
yeah. That's it for email info@bloodygoodhorror.com. Mark, Twitter, me, Timbers.
Cool. I was just checking, and it appears that Killer Flicks is done, so don't go there yet. But go to Blood.
Maybe Mark could get it up by the time the podcast.
Oh God,
We'll
Mark.
see.
Sweet
Go
Jesus.
to bloodygoodhorror.com. Hey, we still have all the reviews, and you
Get it
can
up,
sort
Mark.
by genre and rating and all that. So, I think. Anyways, so we use 2 hashtags. The first one is BGH Classics. So if you are listening to the show and you are a patron and you hear something silly that you think other people would want to hear, tweet it. There you go.
Am I right over there, Mark? Is that
Yeah, sorry. I was trying to get. I had BGH Classics up, and then it was not up. This Killer Flicks thing's really sent me into a spiral. Okay, so hashtag BGH Classics. If you're listening to back episodes and you hear something silly, tweet it with the hashtag BGH Classics. This one is from D. Jared. Oh boy, folks, quit sticking your penis in things. That was Casey, episode 66. I can only imagine what that was in reference to.
Wow, that's a real deep cut.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that's Google report related. So for those of you who are not patrons, for a long period of time, we were very amused by these sort of disgusting and weird and strange Google searches that landed on our site. So I used to read them every week and then stopped. Okay, next
true.
one is
We
from.
sure did stop.
Yeah, we sure
Is there
did
anything you want to talk about, Mark? Like,
No, I'm like seriously just thinking about what could possibly be wrong with Killer Flicks right now. It's
He's
setting me-
shook, dude. He's shook.
Yeah, I'm for sure shook. All right, this next one's from NKO Gonzo. It could be in the cooling vent or it could be in your pants. That was me, apparently, from last week.
What?
So last week, I think we were talking about the location of the alien last week.
There you go.
And the last one for BJ's Classics from Claire Quilty. Eric to Schnars, did you ever attend a racist frat party at Duke? Joe, I didn't know there was any other kind. Episode 239.
Hey-o.
Guys, come on.
That is
You know
a
I draw
classic.
the
I actually
line.
remember him saying that.
I draw the line at the race jokes.
Do you?
Yeah,
Yeah?
I should.
I did not know that actually. That was...
Eric, do you want me to read this thing you tagged with Ask BGH, this like conspiracy theory thing?
Yeah, what was it? It was like
Would
that
you tag it
the
if you
government
did?
came out and said that the Phoenix lights were like these weird flares that these military planes had set off, and then because it was so hot out, they were because they're so hot, it buoys them and like kind of keeps them from falling quickly, so they look like they're floating. And then I don't know, sounds like some government bullshit to me, Mark, is what I thought, but somebody
Don't
took
you
the
wish
time.
your Phoenix
This is a great
lights were
SPGH right
hot
now.
like
A
me?
listener
Yeah.
took the time to respond, which I liked. So
Yeah, okay, cool. So if you want to ask us questions, tweet us with the hashtag AskBGH, or if you're Eric, you can just write a post with AskBGH so that we can pretend to read it on the show. This first one's from Wine Movie Nerd. Mark said that it would fit on 1 Laserdisc. I can confirm it fits on 2 using all 4 sides.
That's
Any of the
awesome.
crew own Laserdiscs.
I did not, but I had a good buddy who did, so we used to watch all those movies there. And I remember like Star Wars was like 4 or 5 like laserdiscs.
What's the point if it's so fucking big? Why can't? Why
It
do you need
looked
so many?
awesome.
Word. Next one's from Skizbot. I just wanted to point out that it's been confirmed that it will be a 2-parter, so the adult scenes may be in the second movie.
Yeah, I feel like there was a lot of rage last week when we
Oh.
talked about this with absolutely no knowledge of what we were talking about.
Oh yeah, I mean I don't we're gonna continue to do that. That's fine. But
If you're looking for knowledge, you're listening to the wrong podcast.
yeah, I was actually shocked that I hadn't heard that though. To be honest, like how could I have not heard that? It's pretty wild.
I wasn't sure.
Well, so there's a difference. Actually, let me rephrase that. We have a pretty good historical knowledge of the genre and movies. We're less up on current events. We got other shit going on. We watch trailers and that's about as far as we get. And
But it's
also
funny
we use
because
IMDb.
I went, that's genius to break it up into 2 movies. I
It's
love
almost as if that's been done before. Next one. It's from the coverage guy. Didn't get to see the post-credit scene for Kong Skull Island? Please tell me the BG Horror Podcast will spoil the heck out of it.
Yeah, Casey, somebody tell me what happened in this post-credit sequence.
We didn't even talk about it, did we?
No, we didn't. So, but we can spoil it here in this part. We get to the end and we see Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson sitting in a interrogation type of room. You got the two-way beers. They're sitting at the table. Nobody's talking to them. They're trying to get answers. Finally, we see Dr. Dre and the other lady that was with him, the biologist on the island, come in, and they start to explain to them that they are at Monarch and what's going on, and that Kong was not the only god that was still out there. And then they start showing slides to where they show existence of cave paintings of, let's see, Rodan, Mothra.
There's Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah.
Yes.
Nice.
So there's quite the potential then that they're setting up a whole new shared universe kicked off by Godzilla.
Yeah,
and this, Kong Skull.
I thought that was
I think that's
100%
what they're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Well, there was known that there was going to be like a Godzilla and King Kong. Like I was actually surprised to see like Mothra and the other ones in there, so I was pretty fired up for that.
Yeah, because it's known now that they're doing Godzilla versus Kong in 2020. But I haven't seen anything on what's going on beyond that. So seeing them throw in Mothra and Rodan and King Ghidorah, it's kind of exciting.
I mean, 2020 is a long way away in the movie world.
So
like,
wait a
my
second.
guess is they're going to have other films.
But like,
I said that when I saw the release date on Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and that's coming out in like 3 weeks.
I'm kind of confused though, because like the Godzilla movie was current day. So how is that going to work? Like with those characters being in the 70s.
Well, and they put in a lot of effort around explaining that Kong is like the last of his kind.
Yeah.
And like, there's this whole backstory about his family. I mean, again, back to my point about there being like way too much plot in this. Like, there's a lot of backstory about like Kong's family.
It's just interesting. Like, do they leave it in the 70s and stay with Brie Larson and him, or do they just bring Kong into the like Godzilla universe?
Oh God, I didn't even think about the people being old. You're right.
Well, yeah, they can't. So they can't. They can only do one or the other. They can stay in the 70s.
They better find a handsome old man to play Tom Hiddleston.
They can stay in the 70s with those people, or they can somehow have it be relevant again in Godzilla time. But the problem with that is like there are no like people from the Godzilla movie that you're like, oh, that guy, except fucking Bryan Cranston, and he's not in the movie. So
yeah, which has to lead me to believe that they're just going to keep it like along this lines.
Interesting.
But who knows? Who knows?
Hey, Kong, what's your dad like?
Hits from the
Do-do-do.
Kong.
Thanks, Joe.
Hits from the Kong.
Great.
I want to
Okay.
meet that Kong dad.
Pick it,
Next
pack
one.
it, fire it
from-
up, come along. I can do that really good with the nasal thing I got going on.
Nope.
Take
Nope.
a hit
Wrong
from
thing,
the
Eric.
bong.
Wrong thing.
No, I'm just doing this thing because I like it.
This is from Bruno the Weber. Hey guys, how excited are you about seeing Ghidorah and Mothra being given the Hollywood treatment?
Fuck yeah, bro.
I think it'll be cool.
That'd be awesome.
I love that we live in a time where we can put so much money into a kind of dumb but awesome endeavor, like bringing these old, corny movie monsters like into cool movies. That's awesome.
I
And
bet
they're
you some of those.
and
I
I
bet
kept
you they
thinking,
skimp
like-
on some of those.
And I kept thinking like they're making Pacific Rim 2, which is incredible, and it's probably going to also bomb but be amazing.
Yeah. I bet you they skimp on some of those, and we see something like Rodan or Mothra show up as a like tertiary character in Kong versus Godzilla or something.
Or they all show up in the same movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather
like if
watch.
you guys remember like a lot of these older Godzilla movies, it was always like Mothra was flying around like fucking shit up, and then like, oh god, Godzilla's here too. Like it was always like very weird. Like they weren't kind of like connected. So I kind of love the fact that they might do that. Like it was like there's two different monsters like destroying Tokyo, and then like, god, Godzilla's over like in the ocean now doing stuff too. Like it was like they weren't like always like connected and like doing things together. Like so. I don't know. I got a few beers in me.
There's a lot more room for activities these days. Next one is from Skizbot. I swear I saw Randy Jackson's signature on Hank's sword. Think he trained for fighting skull crawlers by karate kicking pumpkins.
They could do so many activities in here.
Sure could.
Yeah.
Sure could.
Did we just become best friends?
That's one of my favorite all-time comedies. Like it's
oh, it's so good.
Incredible.
This next
Talladega
one,
Nights. If you guys haven't gone back and watched it,
Yeah.
Classic.
Somebody randomly tweeted today, and I just happened to see it. I happened to see in my timeline the sequence from Step Brothers where the father's telling them that he used to pretend to be a dinosaur as a kid, and they need to go find their dinosaur. And he's just like, no, I like put my arms up like this and just like run around the backyard. I don't know. That scene's fucking genius.
I remember not being excited about seeing Step Brothers when I first saw it, and then left thinking it was like,
God, it's amazing.
I was so happy that I saw it. It's so
Hello,
stupid.
Miss Lady.
This next one is from, I believe, the artist formerly known as RJ&C. Game
Yes,
Watch
it
Apple.
is.
Very clearly a troll tweet, but I'm going to read it anyways. Remember when BGH reviewed horror? Yeah, I don't either. Har, har, har. This is not the first monster movie we reviewed, and you can go fuck yourselves.
I remember that.
Come on, this is squarely in that
You know what's
category.
really funny is I went, wow, that's like, it's really weird for somebody to like talk shit like that. And then I looked closer at the Twitter profile and I'm like, fucking RJ&C.
It makes sense. You know what I always think too, like the because it does happen. Like you'll tell somebody you're watching like a certain movie for the podcast, and it's like I just remember seeing like Jurassic Park, like Fangoria had Jurassic Park covers, right? So it's like
for sure.
Monster movies have always been within the purview of. Now I think we did like a Dark Knight episode, right? There's really no excusing that sort of thing. Except we wanted to do it. We do whatever the fuck we want.
I'll tell you the exact moment I stopped reading Fangoria was when I went to the store and they had Lord of the Rings on the cover. And they tried to sell it by showing...
I hated those movies too.
They tried to sell it by like, it was a picture of like the little golem or whatever. Like that's fucking... Oh, it's a horror movie. It must be. Bullshit. Still mad about it.
And that was like back in the day where you couldn't even tweet your dissatisfaction at them. Be like,
Yeah, no
I
shit.
remember when your covers were horror.
I had to just save it for
100%
20 years.
agree, Eric. Those movies were boring as fuck.
Yeah, bullshit.
All right, last one. It's from Robale. My wife just said, I don't know what a John Schnarf is. What's the worst butchering of his name John has ever had happen?
Schnarf?
Schnarf is up there, and I have gotten that. Thundercats was like just enough before my time that it didn't come up that much in my generation, but people who are like a little older bring it up sometimes.
Who does know what a Schnarf is, Mark? That's a really deep question. You know? What does a Schnarf really mean?
What does the Schnarf say?
I think, well, Eric's like scanners or whatever the hell he was calling me at one point. That also is up there.
Shanners. That was a
He's
listener.
just trying to get back at you for Shy Mullen. So
no, that was from a listener that called you Shanners.
Yeah. I mean, that makes more sense, actually.
The Schnarf character.
Schnarf character, yeah.
All right, guys, we've really been dragging this one out. That's it.
You know what time it is,
Very
Mark?
good.
Music.
Time for the music.
What's going on at bloodygoodhorror.com, Mark? Don't tell me what's going on at killerflix.com. Mark,
the reservation right now. We should
Hey,
move on.
Hey,
well, hopefully
hey,
it'll be back up by the time this show's up.
hey, fuckface, tell me what's going on at bloodygoodhorror.com.
What?
Tell me what's happening on the
with the
fucking
fuckface? That
website
wasn't-
that you run.
I refuse now. Just go to bloodygoodhorror.com. There's new reviews.
Or I will start making up shit that is wrong and not interesting and people won't go.
We've got
How is
a
that?
top
How is
10
that
list
different
of
from the
favorite.
shit you say on the show normally? Anyway,
Our favorite
The,
Andy Griffith episodes right now on bloodygoodhorror.com.
Actually, Andrew's doing a pretty cool feature about Japanese monster revivals that will be up. Maybe not by the time you hear this, but pretty shortly thereafter.
Great. It's great timely content. I like that.
Yeah.
John, if someone wants to get back episodes of Bloody Good Horror, how'd they do
The easiest
that?
in
And
fact,
lots
the
of
only
other
way,
goodies.
Yeah, is to visit bloodygoodhorror.com and click on Patreon, or you can go directly to Patreon and search for Bloody Good Horror. Patreon is a way for people who enjoy the show to get more content from us by supporting the show on a monthly basis. So
And you get lots of cool stuff.
Yeah. Post show.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for joining me tonight, gentlemen.
Oh, hey, thanks for having us.
It's just a pleasure, Eric.
Hope
Always a
everybody
pleasure.
out there in listener land enjoyed the show. Next week, we'll be back reviewing another movie.
Adios.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.